Welcome to another episode of Legal for Tech, the podcast. So, guys, you do recognize my voice. It's always Rosie here. And as I've said many times, this is just a group of students and young professionals who are very interested in anything that has to do with technology. And yes, it's regulation. And today we are talking a lot about regulation that has been changed, modified, reconsidered. Finally, we're here to talk about, yes, the digital omnibus again. But today we're doing it, Giacomo Di Gregorio and I, my great colleague, we are doing it with someone who came on the podcast already, who is absolutely an expert in this field because, well, she saw the baby AI Act, really, we can say that. Welcome on the show, Dottoressa Laura Caroli. Nice to see you.
Hi, thanks for having me again. And yes, we're here to discuss AI Act Take Two, The Revenge.
I would argue it's like take five or six, but according to the commission release, we lost count. Let's say take two. Age doesn't matter to the AI Act. So the trilogue has come out. We know that last Friday, if I'm not mistaken, Thursday or Friday, something has happened between the Parliament, the Council, the Commission. There has been some kind of movement, and something came out at 4 a.m. in the morning, as you told us, Laura. And well, what do we think about it? What's the product? What does it mean, really?
Okay, so the trilogue, as usual, has seen a lot of drama, first of all, as you might have seen. And I think it's important to talk about it too, because it's relevant. The whole process was a bit controversial, intense from the very beginning. Let's remind the audience that we are reopening a law that doesn't fully apply yet. So, why? Because it's in the process of the whole simplification package of the whole EU acquis, basically, and and according to the Draghi report, and the Draghi report also indicates the AI Act as too burdensome for industry. I don't know where he took this because it didn't apply yet. And if you read it, it's mixing up concepts and stuff. But anyway, so the Commission took it at heart and proposed this simplification package. Now we're talking only about the AI omnibus, not the whole digital omnibus that will also modify GDPR, etc., and that will last much longer than the AI Act. So at least one whole year. Thank God the AI Act didn't follow a very long agony because because of a time constraint. So the co-legislators needed to do it quickly, um, to do the whole amendment process quickly before to approve the new amending regulation on time for to move the existing deadlines. So we were running against the clock. We know that we have the 2nd of August of this year. Some rules will still start applying, namely the ones on watermarking, transparency of AI generated content and chatbots. So Article 50. This, let me be clear, will apply for new systems already in August. A lot of people have heard that people will have companies will have a few more months, but this is just for the old systems that were already on the market. If you place a system that generates AI content, or if you use a system as a deployer that generates AI content or a chatbot, etc., you need to label it. Like if you do it from the 2nd of August, you need to label it immediately. If Whereas the old systems will have the council was asking for 6 more months, the parliament for 3 more months, but in the end the final result is December. So the old systems will have until December to implement this watermarking system. a lot of confusion here as well. But so I was saying, the controversy basically stems from the fact that this time the right wing of the parliament has been very, very active and very united and strong and aggressive in asking to support industry. And supporting industry in this case means basically to exempt a lot of sectors from the AI Act and deregulate as much as possible. So industry has done some very aggressive lobbying in the past few months. And as we know from the press, this has reached like some big German companies have reached the ear of Merz, Chancellor Merz, who has taken the issue by heart. And so has intervened directly in the legislative process by sidelining the mandate of the council. So if you are AI Act nerds, you will have seen that there were two attempts at closing these negotiations. One that took months, that took place a few weeks ago, and then in which they didn't find a deal. And so the trilogue was postponed by 1 week, and that was held last week. And why? Because at that time, Merz were super active. The council only had a narrow mandate, and Germany was in minority among the various member states on something that seems very, very technical and very, very boring, but that became a monster in and of itself, that has seen us glued to our chairs for weeks to understand what the possible outcome would be. So let me explain what this is. In particular, we are talking about the proposal by industry to merge Annex 1A and Annex 1B of the AI Act. Just this seems like the most technical and boring proposal ever. And who would even look into it for the details? But actually, in reality, what this means in practice is that you have products that are regulated under the EU legislation, such as toys, machinery, connected devices, medical devices, etc., lifts and others. When they integrate, so they have their specific legislation and they need to be safe. They have I've worked personally on toys. And for the toy safety regulation, you have a lot of chemical provisions, a lot of provisions on the noise limits, the flammability, all the warnings that you have to put on the toy for it to be safe, etc. Now, the thing is, the moment you integrate an AI system in a product, it can do several things that you didn't anticipate. So the AI Act foresees all these requirements. Let's remind them for the audience: a risk management system, data governance, technical documentation, of course, but generation of logs to retrace what the AI system did in its decision-making process, how it reached its output, human oversight, a quality management system, a post-market monitoring system. So these are all requirements that are specific to how the AI system behaves and how it has to be built in order for the AI system to be safe for health, safety, and fundamental rights. These products normally, first of all, just protect health and safety, not fundamental rights, because this is what products usually have to be safe against. So the inclusion of an AI system in them already produces a disconnect. Basically, it introduces the element of fundamental rights that you will say, some people in industry will say it's not relevant for regulated products. Well, the moment you integrate a chatbot in a doll that tells the child, I don't know, in a Barbie, okay? A Barbie with an AI system might tell the girl, you are too fat, you have to be like me, okay? So we're not even talking about physical safety of the child putting the fingers into the plug or jumping out of a window because an AI system, the chatbot told him so. We are talking about also broader fundamental rights, or like a Barbie saying to a black girl, why don't you have white skin like me? You know, you're worse than me. I'm better than you. You know, these are fundamental rights impacts. And if you look at these regulations, I have looked personally at several of them because the industry push was so big in saying, we are already regulated, we already have AI in them. Okay, let's open all of this, you know. Toy safety only has very small considerations about AI. I remember they were still being drafted when I left the parliament, but they are minimal and they don't address how an AI system has to be designed in order to prevent risks. Like the logs, the data governance, and all this stuff. Imagine, like in the machinery regulation, I have looked and looked. There is a bit of something, you know, there is something about logs. There is a risk management system. There are some elements that I found interesting personally. There is a reference to the self-evolving behavior of the safety component when it's software, because all we talk about here is when the AI system is a safety component. So when it's malfunctioning can endanger the health and safety of a person or property. In the case of, for example, machinery, don't necessarily only have impacts on people, but also can destroy assets. So yes, machinery has a few elements, but not all of them. It doesn't have, for example, data governance. The medical devices regulation, one of the, let's admit it, it's one of the most strictly regulated sectors, and rightly so, because of course it's our health we're talking about. If you look at that one, you will find a risk management system, but it's not the same as the AI Act, and it doesn't, for example, it doesn't mention data governance or one element I haven't mentioned, accuracy, robustness. So how do you make sure that the AI system actually is consistently performing according to the intended purpose? And how do you make sure that its results are accurate to the intended purpose? And then cybersecurity, of course, you can reach it through other legislation, but still. So there were many gaps, and the AI Act was already designed so as to incorporate this need for flexibility in cases of duplications. For example, in Article 8.2, we inserted a whole new paragraph that says that when you have conflicts between the two, you can integrate the processes so as to, to have a uniform application and avoid duplications. When you have, for example, in Article 17, if you have already a quality management system per your sectoral legislation, you can use that and incorporate just the AI part in it without creating a new one. So there were already all of the elements. Now, industry is saying, no, we are already regulated fully, etc. Basically, by moving Annex 1A to Annex 1B, you are saying we exempt all these products from the AI Act, and then one day, when they have time, the Commission, not the AI office, but DG Grow, that is responsible for sectoral products, or DG Santé for medical devices, they will update themselves through delegated acts or implementing acts the specific sectoral legislation one day, we don't know when, and will include AI-specific requirements similar to the AI Act. So what me and several fellow, for example, standardization experts, etc., civil society, academics, etc., we were concerned about this because this would mean, first of all, that for until all these legislations are updated, we won't know exactly, and even manufacturers of those products will not know how to manage an AI system. They will have to do something, but they don't know what. So, of course, some will just be happy that they don't have to do anything by law, but some will be afraid, of the lack of legal certainty, like, do I incur in liability, for example, if my AI system malfunctions? Will consumers of that product be afraid of using that product because of the lack of AI specific requirements? So it's confusing. So, and this would generate a situation whereby the Commission will update, I don't know, the medical devices in 2029, the toy safety in 34, so some in 3 years, some in 5 years, some in 7 years, some in parallel. So we don't know exactly when. And this will also mean that it is very probable that the requirements that will then be integrated in these regulations will be divergent from each other. So logs in one can mean one thing, in machinery can mean one thing, in medical devices another thing, in toys another thing. So the whole horizontal nature of the AI Act would be completely destroyed and only be kept for systems that relate to fundamental rights. And plus, I mentioned standardization experts. This would be problematic also because the fact of having the Commission include all the elements in great detail, because Annex 1B, that will be the reference, is for old approach legislation. So meaning that instead of using the new product safety approach of the EU acquis, I'm sorry, I'm being super, super boring, I know. So instead of using the system that has functioned very well for the past decades, a couple of decades, that is, you have the requirements, all the operators have specific roles, from the manufacturer who has the most to importer, distributor, etc. And then the manufacturer has this possibility of opting out of a third-party certification by using harmonized standards. So if you use standards that are officially recognized by the Commission as adequate to comply with the legislation, you can self-assess your product as compliant and produce your certificate declaration of conformity, affix the CE marking on your product, and you're good to go. You're good to go. And if a market surveillance authority calls on you and says, listen, your product is not compliant, you say, I'm sorry, I applied the standard. I can show it to you here. And this would be very much taken into account because the harmonized standards give a presumption of conformity, a legal presumption of conformity to the manufacturers. So it's a very, very important tool that companies have. And plus, they, being standards, they are drafted not by the Commission, but by standardization bodies, meaning mainly industry experts, together with some consumers, some trade unions in a small part, but mainly it's industry, independent experts, and so on and so forth. I was also sometimes in the meetings because I was a member of, in this case, Sensenelec JTC 21, the Joint Technical Committee that is drafting the standards for the AI Act. These famous standards that are never ready on time, and actually they are getting to completion because the quality management system was already sent to public inquiry months ago, and it was already integrating all the comments. Now we have cybersecurity and the risk management system. And this was announced just last week that they are going to public inquiry. So they are really nearing completion now. So industry will not have the same excuse in a few months that the standards are not there. And so basically, if you now remove all those sectoral laws from this system, it's not industry anymore that will write the rules for these products, but it's the commission. So because the commission will integrate all these very detailed protocols, provisions that you have in the standards, not in the AI Act. The AI Act is short, I guarantee. The standards are much more detailed and complicated because they really say what you have to do from A to Z. Um, and so this will mean they will integrate everything. You cannot uh, self-assess on the basis of standards anymore. The whole system will be overhauled. And ultimately, what this would mean is that the people who are working in the standardization bodies now will be encouraged to leave these bodies because their sector will not apply these standards anymore, you know. Uh, because, I mean, what's the point? Now they will have another system. They will have all the rules already integrated in the specific legislation. So why spend days and like hours and hours discussing these standards in weekly meetings and commenting all the documents that they send you? Like, it's a very time-consuming job that companies often don't even have resources to do. So, okay, they will just leave. They will block the whole standardization system. And so this was what we were up against. In the end, so, and Germany was very excited by these major German companies that said, no, no, we don't want this, we want the other system. In particular, it was connected devices like telecoms or machinery producers that were the most excited in Germany. And so basically, whereas the council was in principle against this complete overhaul of the rules, because it's been industry friendly and functioning for 20 years, so they don't understand why we should change it at the last moment. But Germany did everything they could. They contacted the commission. The commission, apparently, I've heard from several reports that from the top they made the commissioner change her position during the trilogue that was suspended uh, because of this very high level political push. And then on the second take, Germany had the opportunity to gain this time to try and sway a few member states to its own side. So, for example, Italy and supposedly also France joined the German position. So, you know, the mandate of the council was starting to be a bit shaky. So what happened in the end was that the only solution to this problem was to remove one of these 12 pieces of legislation, machinery, which, as I recall, you was already integrating some elements related to self-evolving software. So to a certain extent, maybe okay. But under some conditions. So the final package says, basically amends the machinery regulation by saying that the Commission will produce this delegated act to incorporate all the AI specific requirements. And this delegated act has to be enforced by August 2028. So exactly the same new date that also applies to the other 11 pieces of legislation. So this will mean at the same time they will have the same rules, more or less. And and it also says exactly how they have to incorporate these rules. Like the level of protection must be the same as the requirements of the AI Act, and it also specifies the list of these requirements, including the post-market monitoring, for example, the reporting of incidents, that normally was not so straightforward to include so explicitly. And in the meantime, for the interim situation, you will have, like, the Commission will ask standardization bodies for standard deliverables to make this bridge. So machinery can use the machinery specific standards that they have used for years and they like so much because they know it, they functions well. Great, but they will also have, I don't know, a sort of bridge that that anchors the machinery regulation still to the AI Act system. Um, I don't know if this is clear to you guys, but we have moved basically to a situation where we were risking to completely overhaul the product safety and horizontal nature of the AI Act to a situation where only one sectoral law has escaped, but not really escaped, the AI Act system. Um, but we'll see the AI Act basically reproduced in itself in less than 2 years. So my opinion, like I made a post the next morning, like when after the 3 or 4 hours I managed to sleep that night by saying that it could have been much worse. Their final result could have been much worse. Why? Because again, it could have been all these 12 pieces of legislation, a lot of legal uncertainty, a lot of strain on the resources of the Commission, a complete stop of the standardization process. This crisis has been averted. It's only like I commented to Peter, for example, in a group chat we have on LinkedIn, that the mountain has given birth to the mouse. So all this mess to please the machinery industry, and I'm not even sure they are actually pleased because they didn't actually escape the AI Act provisions, even though they will be incorporated in their own law. Okay, they will not have to read two pieces of legislation. This maybe is good for them. It's already saving time, but it doesn't mean the protection will be lowered, and I'm pretty happy about this. So I will stop because I don't know how much I spoke.
Uh, Laura, this is a brilliant point you made. The whole explanation was brilliant, and I'm sure that both us and our listeners will definitely benefit from it because, as I said, when we started talking, there was a lot of lack of clarity, kind of like missaid or misspelled, misconveyed truths. It was not clear what had happened. And thank you for actually bringing a bit of, let's say, reassurance and hope. There are still going to be standards. They are going to be kind of distributed around the industry, but still they're going to be there. They will be um, implemented correctly, and they will be also specific to this to the single industry, if I understand correctly, because they won't be potentially anymore in a bigger regulation when potentially would
No,
have
no,
been
only for machinery. Only for
only for
machinery.
machinery. So we will see about toys and cars,
No, no.
if I'm not mistaken.
Toys will still have to apply the AI Act.
Perfect. So nothing has really been changed in that regard. Um, I would say one of the points you made throughout the whole kind of explanation and towards the end is this idea that um, there was some level, obviously, a very strong kind of political interference coming from Germany. And yes, Merz, finally, we can tell the German public that he has been doing something, just not in Germany. But
Oh, he has been
also,
doing a lot.
yeah. I'm not sure whether the German newspaper would agree on that in terms of German politics, but
Uh,
Um, but let's say that this whole experience of digital omnibus has been heavily politicized. The commission at the beginning was kind of blamed of being too political, of being under the shield of the American will, and with a very prominent American president that could have made sense at the time on the 19th of November, if I'm not mistaken, when the digital omnibus was firstly came into the reality of our conversations. And then now the parliament, oh yeah, there was Merz, and there was also a very political. And one other political aspect potentially of this digital omnibus is the way that deepfakes are treated. So my question would be, let's talk about deepfakes, and also let's kind of untangle the questions and the doubting that there has been regarding the kind of political nature of digital omnibus. Is this just a political act, or does it really aim at doing something from the legislative point of view? And like, can the changes really be used in court? Can it be useful? And let's talk about deepfakes in this regard. Can it be useful to have this new digital omnibus, or is it just a political act?
Yeah, good question. So first of all, I would like to mm, a bit demystify this impact from Washington, where, by the way, I have lived 1 year through the Trump administration, and and so I can tell you that from the US, Europe is very far and irrelevant and annoying. And I think they consider us, especially in AI, a completely lost cause. So we are their laughing stock, basically. The administration goes around everywhere in the world to say to ministers from other countries, don't do like Europe, like literally in the speeches. It's one of the speaking points. Anyway, the US position is most against not the AI Act or GDPR, but in particular the SA and DMA. And these were not reopened by the Commission. Like the DMA for them is a direct attack to American companies, and the SA is a bit less direct, but still, you know. I mean, we've all heard how they consider it to be digital censorship, etc., etc. So yeah, the I don't agree with those who say that this push by Washington was a key factor in proposing these omnibus proposals. This was the product of a change in majority, of a regulatory fatigue also by the member states, and difficulty from industry, coming from industry that was mounting and mounting one regulation after the other. In the meantime, they found fertile ground in the also in the European Parliament that, as I said, shifted its majority much towards the right. So making points related to fundamental rights, for example, is increasingly difficult. And we will see this debate again with the GDPR, so the data omnibus proposal that includes e-privacy, GDPR, cybersecurity, etc., etc. Um, uh, anyway, but your question was another one. I have to remember your question. Ah, no, deepfakes. So first of all, one of the other key outcome of the AI omnibus was the introduction of this new ban. It's a ban on deepfakes. So we need to talk about this. I know this is not what you wanted to talk about, but I know. Uh, but I need to talk about it because if the right was very adamant in supporting industry on the sectoral legislation that we mentioned. The left was very adamant in the need to introduce this new ban, the fact of the possibility of generating non-consensual intimate imagery after the Grok scandal that we had at the beginning of the year, that generated millions of sexually explicit images of women that didn't give their consent. So this will be a major change in how we treat deepfakes under the AI Act, because they are this possibility of generating these deepfakes is banned now, outright banned, and also child sexual abuse material, which by the way was already forbidden by its specific legislation. So, but still, the council wanted to add it. So, of course, can you say no to this? It seems like you are against children. So, of course, let's include. But I know you wanted to talk about Article 50. Article 50, the main change, as we said, was in the date of application of uh, the the systems that were already placed on the market before the application of the regulation. So these will have more time to implement the rules. In the meantime, as we know, the Commission, the AI Office, together with stakeholders, is in the process of drafting this code of practice for labeling AI-generated content. So this should be ready by June, they said. They are, I think, at the third draft now, and they are even the Commission just last week published guidelines to which they opened a public consultation. So they are now starting to be very, very active and present on this specific topic of how to label AI-generated content. But so this will be like the change, as I already said, is that um, there is this new possibility for systems that were already on the market to have time until now, December, to implement this watermarking system. Just as, yeah. So this is the main change. But I know that you want to talk about something even more specific about this that relates to, I think, DSA or recommender systems.
I think
Correct.
the point, yes, the point that I've seen kind of around LinkedIn actually, but yeah, also maybe the commission wasn't very clear then. I mean, obviously the guidelines, by the way, for everyone who's listening, they're open for consultation until I think the 3rd of June. So if you guys want to make your own contribution, you find them on the commission's website, and we will add the link to our show notes. Jack, I see your face. Yes. Uh, thanks God. But also, I think the point was like, it's difficult to distinguish what systems are included in the guidelines, what systems aren't. It's difficult to distinguish, like, to what extent does Article 50 apply in terms of transparency, and to what extent the interplay with other legislative instruments, of which the DSA, of course, plays a huge role, because we're talking about content that can be shared on blobs, for example. The extent to which this interplay is sufficiently explored and explained. I would say yes, the guidelines have literally like small chapters in which they explain the interplay with the DSA, which is a good try, good beginning. But I also have to say, like, it's half a page. So like I'm just gonna point that out. Just Article 50 is more than half a page. Shocker. If you see it on like literally on the page. The question that I'm very concerned in asking, I guess, is more like linked to, of course, Article 50 has been left as it is. It's a decently easy-ish article to implement anyways. It doesn't need big standards like Article 6, for example. Uh, but um, do you do you kind of see a greater kind of desire from the Parliament, the Commission, the Council to somehow constrain the use of AI systems that are based on GPAI, but also that are mostly spread out onto the public and at massive levels? Because we see it with deepfakes, we see it with the implementation of Article 50. It looks like they kind of woke up and went like, oh, goddamn, there are chatbots. Um, like how do you interpret this sudden focus on Article 50? And of course, I mean, on the deepfakes. That's what I would like to ask.
What do you mean sudden though? Because it was already in the AI Act from the very first draft. So I don't.
Um, I know, and that's why I was a bit confused by the amount of people that woke up one morning and went like, "Oh, actually, the AI Act does kind of regulate the use of generative AI," and I was like, "Yeah, it's been there for the beginning." But I would I would say like compared to the greatness and to how big the actual AI Act is, I would say that Digital Omnibus, I wouldn't say like suddenly got concerned about the existence of generative AI, but definitely put a focus on it, like as if it was kind of like highlighting the existence of it and the consideration of it. That would be kind of like what I read about, but like also like the importance that it's being given to generative AI within the Commission's interesting declaration about the digital omnibus. It looked like it was the only thing they actually wanted to talk about, to be fair.
Okay, I have to be honest to our audience, as I already told you in private, I didn't read the Commission press release because I didn't need to. And it was, I know that internally it's been a struggle for them too, so I don't want to interfere in this internal turmoil, possible turmoil they are having right now. So I don't know to what extent this was highlighted. Maybe they were referring to the ban, or I don't know. In any case, I remember your one of your latest podcasts with Yost, and he was ending the whole conversation by saying we should have focused much more on generative AI from day one. Like this is all irrelevant right now if we don't focus on generative AI. So the generative AI is not just Article 50, of course, because the whole chapter on general purpose AI models basically regulates also what then becomes generative AI. The Article 50 is just like the cherry on top. It's just the layer that is visible to the public, the watermarking that you will be able one day to see. By the way, here I think a lot of this visibility about Article 50 was due to first the fact that the code of practice is being drafted, so the Commission posts a lot of announcements on it, and there are a lot of experts working on this right now. So um, they have this in mind very yeah all the time. While they were doing the AI omnibus. So of course they had a connection there, mental connection. Um, but also, what did I want to say? Also, in this industry pressure that I've been mentioning, that has been very harsh in the past few months, I've noticed that some of the biggest trade associations for US big techs, for example, in particular, had been very vocal in saying, for example, that this grace period of 4 months, is it 4 months? Yeah, until December is too short and they need one more year for systems that already that are already on the market to apply this watermarking. But I'm sorry, the US has several state bills that relate to transparency for AI generated content. They say China doesn't regulate. China has focused from the very beginning precisely on labeling AI generated content. The ITU is working on standards on how to identify generated content, several of them. Last week, I participated to an ITU panel in which I was the least expert of them all, and I don't even know what I was doing there because they were super technical on exactly how on the various standards that you can use, C2PA, metadata, provenance, this and that. It's not my expertise, but I was happy to listen. But it's a whole world in and of itself. It's not something that the AI Act introduced by ourselves and that doesn't exist in practice and that it's impossible to do. It's not like this. So, but again, industry is making their point heard very uh, vocally. So that's the way it goes, and that's why maybe most of the attention has been on this, to the point that many people actually think that the rules on watermarking will apply from December, which is not true because they will still apply from August. These are the only the August 2026 deadline is for Article 50 is the only one that has stayed exactly the same. It hasn't changed with the AI Omnibus, whereas, as we know, Annex 3 now has until the 1st of December, 2nd of December 2027, sectoral legislation August 2nd, 2028. So the only one that applies now is Article 50. So the AI Omnibus hasn't changed in that regard. The only small change you will see in Article 50 is that um, until now we had this possibility of the AI office to by an implementing act confirm the code of practice as having general validity for the whole union, so to become the de facto standard for watermarking. But they removed this possibility, and they removed it also from the other code of practice, from Article 56. So for general purpose AI models, the code of practice that was published last year after a lot of controversy as well, of course. This was a provision that was supposed to help companies by giving a sort of presumption of conformity, even though we couldn't name it like that, because this presumption of conformity is only available for harmonized standards. So it's a very codified procedure. And this was, let's say, a legal innovation, this code of practice that we took a bit from the DSA as a concept, but it was there just to bridge basically the lack of standards in the field. So we used this code of practice, and the commission said, okay, let's give a legal something that they can use to say, hey, we apply the code of practice, so we should be good to go. Now they won't do this implementing act to give it general validity anymore, because legally it's complicated. And by the way, they should have done it for the other code of practice already 1 year ago, but they never did it. So basically, to be honest, Rosalia, one of my points that I often make is that this whole simplification effort is more to simplify the life of the commission and the AI office than of the companies. Yes, because a lot of the proposals were there because they received too many questions on a certain point and they didn't know how to solve them. Okay, so slash this. For example, the AI literacy obligation is now a bit watered down because they received a lot of questions about it, how to implement it, what actually it would mean. And so they said, okay, it's not an obligation anymore. So this was their proposal. Now it's a sort of obligation. I still haven't understood exactly. It's a smaller obligation, an obligation of at least do everything you could to to equip your staff, but you don't have to ensure AI literacy for your staff. So it's a bit of a mixed picture.
Reminds me when kids like are told off by the parents, and then you reply to the parent, and then can you do it? And the parent goes like, well, like then like just leave it there. It's a bit that kind of situation scenario. Great. And there's a parent in every commission, like that's the reality of it. But I think Jack wants to
It's
ask
a
you a
good
question.
metaphor.
Yeah, that's a great parallel actually with the parents, to be honest. But yeah, I entered the conversation now because I was listening around all these complexities that are really hard to comprehend. But thank you, Laura, because you were very, very clear and it was
Thank you.
easy to follow what you
That's
said.
the best compliment you can give me because it's really not easy to explain this whole
Yeah,
thing.
I can imagine. I can imagine. And but I wanted to ask you like one last question. Another change that is happening with the digital omnibus, like with the AI office, like what are the powers? If is it gonna be more powers, less powers than before? What is gonna happen?
So yes, there will be more powers. Um, but what they actually are, it's also a complex picture. First of all, in the AI Act, they were already competent, for example, together with the member states authorities, to enforce general purpose AI systems that came from general purpose AI models with the same provider. So basically, ChatGPT instead of GPT, both are um, have OpenAI as a provider. So the enforcer is normally the AI office for the ChatGPT component, also with member states. Now it will be just the AI office. So it was more nuanced in the AI Act, and now it's really exclusively the AI office. And here, the member states at some point said, "Okay, you do it yourself because we don't have the resources." It became clear this past year. Many of them, as you know, haven't even appointed their authorities yet. This was one of the reasons why the AI omnibus was proposed. They stopped the clock because we need more time. Yeah, the sandboxes weren't there. Everything was late. So it's not only the standards, it's especially the member states. And then the AI office will also be responsible, according to the final text that I'm digesting just as much as you right now, will be responsible to enforce um, um, the Annex 1 systems, so sectoral, the interplay with sectoral legislation. And but on this, I'm a bit, and of course, um, very, they were already responsible for very large online platform and very large search engines under the DSA, because we are talking about the bigger systems, the bigger companies. Now, on the specific nuances, I'm still digesting. So because the member states asked for some um, derogations when AI systems, general purpose AI systems, come from general purpose AI models that are embedded, for example, into uh, law enforcement or migration or critical infrastructure. They were trying to carve out some of these exclusive competence from the AI office. In the end, it's a mixed picture. I think critical infrastructure is still the AI office, but I need to read it again, to be
Um,
honest with you.
Laura, let's also like maybe put for our listeners. I mean, the AI office will have competence for what concerns the AI Act, of course,
Mhm.
was like I think what can create a bit of panic, I would say, even within companies, is that like, there are some other things that are still kind of like dealt with at national level. And in that, I think like the three of us are the best example because we come from a country that is the first one that decided to ban ChatGPT and also DeepSeek, if I'm not mistaken. So the
Yes.
two,
Mhm.
because that were the situation of like kind of GPI models embedded in systems provided by the same provider. Because as you made the example with ChatGPT earlier, but also DeepSeek One is embedded in the DeepSeek app and web interface. Um, and that ban, let's remind everyone, that was on the basis of the processing of data, so that data processing practices, and that was under the jurisdiction of the Garante. So he is the Italian DPA. They are, it's a college. So they are the Italian DPA. So I think this is a point to make kind of clear. The office has power, of course, and you said like, yeah, they have more power now. But at the same time, it's always bound and kind of grounded within the AI Act. So there are some things that will still remain in the hands and in the control of national authorities. And if we think about conformity authorities, so market surveillance authorities, I mean, the
Yeah.
interplay between the air office and the national market surveillance authorities is still something to obviously clarify. And when you said I need to digest it, I think also national marketing surveillance authorities really need to digest it. Because I would like to see the German conformity surveillance authority when they will have to talk with the air office.
And
So
plus, how
yeah,
many are there in Germany? So
that's
many.
why. That was why I
300.
cited Germany. But they don't know how many they are. Let's say that they are in number between 100 and 1,500, more or less. No, no, I'm joking. I think there's one for land, but like still, it's incredible. And Italy, I think, has two, three now. Like it's all there.
I don't know. Uh, by the way, we also have in Italy two agencies that are supposed to enforce the AI Act, and they are not the Garante, so they will need to talk to each other at some point. Yes. And plus, the two agencies in Italy are not even independent because they are directly dependent from the Prime Minister's office. So I don't know. Even the provision of the AI Act in which we say they shall act independently, which was the only thing we could do in terms of adding some element of independence. The member states refused any imposition on how to establish their own authorities, or no, not establish, appoint, because they didn't want to establish new authorities. Many of them didn't. So they just used authorities that were already there, and Italy used those two, and they are not acting independently at all because they are, again, at the dependence of the la Presidenza del Consiglio. So,
That's
so
also in Germany. I think they are still independent, but like also the kind of like tasks were distributed amongst authorities, so different
yeah.
ones. So like then you have to know which one you have to call, which is
I think Germany also appointed the telecom uh, authorities, no?
yeah, like the
I don't remember the name.
BFDI, if I'm not mistaken, is like this
Yeah.
authority that takes care of the telecom infrastructure. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So our point at the time was basically we will have this AI board in Brussels in which you will see one garante from so a DPA here and there, a sectoral authority, a telecom authority, a banking authority, a cybersecurity authority, an independent agency, all of these together, and good luck having them speak to each other in the same language because they will speak very different languages. I think this is underestimated, but it would be a real mess in the enforcement of the AI Act. But this is entirely on the member states. They didn't want any imposition, so now it's their problem. I'm sorry.
Well, let's say that the AI Act is a work in progress. um, still. which is incredible because it's a work in progress that hasn't come into implementation yet. So we have no clue, basically, on majority of things. But yeah, interesting times are coming. Let's say so. And Laura, we count on you to guide us through these interesting times. Whenever another, I'm expecting chapter 9, 10, 11 of this conversation. You're ready. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
wait, I
most.
hope we don't reopen it again. Please.
Wait, I'm actually having fun on these conversations. So I'm always hoping there will be another occasion.
Like,
You guys don't see Laura, but her face is like, not again. I love you, but please not.
no, you should have seen the faces of the people who actually had to work on the AI omnibus from the parliament and council and commission. They were all like needing therapy at some point, like PTSD all over again. Why are we even here once again? It's a nightmare. This was a general feeling that I got, more or less. So if we do it
This
a third time, I don't think we can recover.
should become a new campaign for the industries. If you ask and if you lobby too much, then you have to pay for therapy. Like, let's
Oh,
see how it goes.
massive therapy.
Well, Laura, I will say thank you for this wonderful episode. I really hope that our listeners will get the chance. I mean, for us, it was enlightening. I really hope that our listeners will get a chance to understand what's happening a bit more now and maybe like comment and tell us what they think. They'll find all the links to everything we've been talking about in our show notes, including drum roll, Laura's absolutely brilliant Substack that you guys should follow and support because it's the only thing that's taking us through everything that's happening. So, Laura, thank you for publishing that Substack.
By the way, I was saying I need to digest because I want to publish something that recapitulates every single change, like the prediction I made a couple of months ago as to how it could end. Now I want to see did it end this way or not. So I will do this as soon as I have time. I swear. I swear to our audience.
Okay, that's wonderful to know. So they can find the link to that one too in our show notes. Jack is looking at me like, please stop saying that because I'm like getting lost with list. I'm so sorry, Jack. Like the listeners really thank you and us too. So yeah, that said, this was all for the Legal for Tech, the podcast. Thank you for listening.
This episode was brought to you in partnership with Digital. Digital helps privacy professionals to stay up to date with the most important European documents in the AI, data and digital space every day. Curious to know more? Check out the link in our show notes.